what I wrote down today. Because I think it is kind of moving. Maybe it'll help someone. Maybe it'll inspire someone a little bit. So I'm titling this message "Better Off Alone." Something that has been on my mind for a while and seems to only become more prevalent to me is that the thing people need but lack the most is compassion. Where it might have been, I'm guilty of not having compassion where it might have been called for, or maybe casting indifference where I might have been of service otherwise. I judge myself and I feel guilt over it, but I know deep down that it stems from self-doubt and a lack of confidence and certainty in myself. And that it's literally just one fundamental belief that determines whether you have it or not, and that is if you're worthy. If you have the willpower to believe in yourself, that you are another living, breathing creature on this earth, as long as you're still breathing, then there will always be hope for you. You know, it's not the end until the last breath, essentially. There's unbelievable success stories of people beating insane odds, and all of them did it with the resolve that they would overcome the obstacles before them and refuse to succumb to the task. Confidence isn't walking into a room and knowing everyone is going to like you. It's walking into a room and knowing you'll be fine whether anyone likes you or not. Living in the balance between the uncertainty of the moment and the certainty of existence. Sometimes I think it's better off to be alone. It's better off to be alone than to feel taken advantage of or out of place. If someone is treating you harshly or taking you for granted, then why feel obligated to be compassionate towards them? Why give your energy to that? Contrarily to not being obligated to give any one specific people your compassion, nobody is going to force compassion on you either. That would be antithetical to compassion, right? Maybe unless you're into that sort of thing. But jokes aside, if someone really wishes to share in the experience of life with you, then they should be able to muster up the willpower for it, and it shouldn't take a lot of persuading. Simple as that. 25,000 miles isn't even that far. Don't even matter where you are in the world. If you want it bad enough, then what even is that? What even is 25,000 miles? Or any even distance? And maybe we can't force each other into being more compassionate, but I believe we can help lead each other into being more compassionate and to stay in that attitude and in that spirit. Granted, if it is consensual, obviously, right? Personally, I don't want to live in a world where I feel I have to pressure or coax people, or vice versa, me being one pressured into being more compassionate. I want to live in a world where compassion simply comes secondary to being around people who love and want to be around each other. Sometimes I'll get down on myself in my loneliness thinking nobody cares, so why should I? Better off alone, right? But I need to realize in those moments that in doing so, I'm actually disgracing and demeaning the part of myself that craves connection and craves compassion. There's a huge mosquito right in front of me. That in doing so, I'm doubting my power, which powers my doubt. That I'm focusing my energy on things outside of my control and desire, and not on the many things which are. When life is difficult, and maybe it seems like nobody is there for you, try not to focus on how other people might not be, or might be lacking compassion, but instead on how you personally can cultivate more compassion within yourself and in healthy ways with others. You are your number one responsibility. You gotta take care of yourself. It kind of goes without saying, right? I came up with this saying some time ago: don't let your pursuit of love get in the way of your ability to love. As a reminder that once your pursuit of love impedes on someone else's life, then the original goal and intention to love has been lost to some extent or another. I think compassion has to come from a place of independence and solidarity, or else it isn't going to be strong and true. It has to come from within in an act of self-actualization and intention, or else it isn't real. I feel like this might be why compassion continues to be misunderstood and out of practice for people. Or why people covet it. I don't know. Why people would covet it. It's because many people do not comprehend what independence, or they don't relate with what independence and living intentionally really means. Their means and processes for actualizing their lives have been hijacked. People's habits play a huge role in who they become in the future, and we spend a lot of time in an individual mental state. When we're sleeping, when we're working, when we take care of ourselves, we go into a centered, independent state of mind. Even if you might be sharing the same space as other beings or vessels, generally you aren't extending your energy to other people, whether it be compassion or, in malice. You're probably not doing that most of the time. You're probably centered in yourself. If you've ever known someone who can't stop thinking about others and cannot center their focus on their own path, you probably know what it can do to people. The habits that we incur and practice while we're alone greatly impact how we behave and how we interact with others. If you can't properly integrate and internalize the thoughts and feelings you have into your being when you're by yourself, how can you expect to properly interact and integrate yourself into an experience with others? Your inner dialogue is just a dialogue that you have with yourself before you share it with other people, in large part. There's a saying, this quote: paradoxically, the ability to be alone is the condition for the ability to love. And that's attributed to Eric Fromm. I really like this because it's a reminder that the power that I cultivate within myself, the energy that I keep, the spirit that I keep, is the energy and the power that I bring to all my relationships. And is where the condition and the standing of all my relationships stems from. You know, I can look at my relationships and I can see how they end up and how they transgress, and I have to be able to see the reflection of, you know, how that's a direct reflection of my own energy, how I allow other people to treat me, and how I, you know, what boundaries that I am willing to set for myself. The limitations, I don't know. Back to my notes. You can't pour from an empty cup. If you must stand in solitude, then so be it. Just make sure it's in the right place morally. Solitude can entail just as much vulnerability as being with tribe. Yeah, living with other people in communal settings comes with its own challenges. Sometimes a lot of its own challenges. But it could be argued that you are at your most vulnerable when you're all alone. Nobody can stay awake 24/7. It's like a simple fact. Everybody gotta sleep. Everybody gotta sleep, and to do that, you gotta let your guard down. So there's really some things that tribe that cannot be replaced by anything other than a tribe. You get a dog, maybe, yeah, like maybe, but serious situation. I'd rather have someone I trust watch my back while I'm resting, for sure. I try not to go to the worst case scenario too much, but it does happen quite a bit. Nobody is impervious to the law of association. Nobody's impervious to the law of association. Our humanity connects us all, regardless of how far apart our minds might be. It's in our nature to be tribal. You can only be better off alone for so long. Before, you know, you start doing a disservice to yourself and start doing a disservice to others when you could be sharing compassion with them and living a fulfilling, joyful life. But you gotta want it too. So I urge anybody that might be receiving this message to take all the solitude you need, because I think that is just as necessary. But when you're done, to keep coming back to your tribe and cultivating compassion with them. Maybe it's not your blood family. Not for me. You might have to change tribes a few times to find the right people. I definitely had to. But don't give up on finding that sense of belonging that you might only have with yourself alongside other people who you can actually depend on to be there for you.